Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Sundays with Paul. I have to confess, I had some trouble putting this one together. In fact, it took me a lot longer to prepare this episode than the other ones that I've previously done. Not because it's a long and involved one, but because of what's going on in the world around us right now. We still have the threat of the COVID-19 virus, even though many states and locations are starting to open things up. But the threat is still there. The danger still exists. Recently, there was the death of George Floyd in Minnesota. And it's horrific to watch the video of a man handcuffed, laying on the pavement with not one but multiple officers with their knees in his back and one on his neck, and I'm told that it's not an uncommon way of subduing someone. The problem is the video doesn't seem to indicate that Mr. Floyd needed subdued. Now, there may be more of the story that we learn as things go on, but it's troubling to say the least. And I say that as a son of a police officer. That my dad was a police officer for many, many years. And I'm troubled when I see examples like that of officers who abuse their badge and abuse the honor of wearing that uniform. And so that weighed heavy on me, seeing that happen. But then, as a result of that, or that being a fuse that lit the powder keg, now we see protests that are evolving into riots all across the country, not just in Minneapolis where those events occurred, but in just about every major city and right here in Des Moines, Iowa. We had rioters in one of the downtown districts that smashed windows and destroyed stuff at businesses that are staples of the community, that are regular, popular places that people go eat and drink at, that are well loved, and yet they were trashed by rioters who didn't care, that they were just there to either make a statement or just to destroy stuff. We sadly both exist. But those things were weighing on my mind when it came time to prepare my Sundays with Paul, and that made it tough. And so actually today's theme, I decided, is troubling times. That is our focus for today. And it's very easy, especially during times like this, to focus on all the trouble that's going on around us. And when we do, we lose sight of the good that is there too. Now, my heart breaks right now because I see people that I know, friends and acquaintances on social media, who are giving in to that mentality of only looking at the bad and not even acknowledging the good. And in doing so, making broad sweeping statements about how evil certain groups of people are and how racist certain groups of people are. And these labels being applied en masse to a lot of different individuals when they don't even apply to those individuals if you actually took time to really know them. But you see, the problem is right now, people are being driven by passion and perception. They're not being driven by truth. Oh, what I would do to have the kind of faith it takes to climb out of this boat I'm in, onto the crashing waves, to step out of my comfort zone, into the realm of the unknown where Jesus is, and He's holding out His hand. But the waves are calling out my name and they laugh at me, reminding me of all the times I tried before and failed. The waves keep on telling me time and time again, you'll never win. You'll never win. But the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says, do not be afraid. Oh, the voice of truth says, this is for my glory. And of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth. Oh, what I would do to have the strength it takes to stand before a giant with just a sling and a stone, surrounded by the sounds of 1,000 warriors shaking in their armor, wishing they'd had the strength to stand. But the giant's calling out my name and it laughs at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. The giant keeps on telling me time and time again, you'll never win. You'll never win. But the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says, do not be afraid. Or the voice of truth says, this is for my glory. But of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth. Oh, the stone was just the right size to put the giant on the ground. And the waves, they don't seem so high from on top of them looking down. I can soar with the wings of eagles when I stop and listen to the sound of Jesus singing over me. Oh, the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says, do not be afraid. Oh, the voice of truth says, this is for my glory. And of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose to listen and believe. I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth. I will listen to you. I will listen to you, Jesus, 'cause you are the voice of truth. Yes, I will listen to you. I will listen to you, 'cause you are the voice of truth. For God so loved the world, He gave His one and only Son, that whoever would believe in Him would not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but that through Him the world might be saved. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Father except by me. Now that you can believe, because that is the truth. Even those who are not church-going people are familiar with the verse John 3:16. It's everywhere, even at sporting events. People hold up the signs and you see it all over the place. And it has that simple basic truth. For God so loved the world, He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life. Now that's a really tremendous and powerful statement. And that's why that verse is used as a foundation of evangelism. It is a cornerstone of evangelism. It is used to proclaim hope to those who often feel they are without hope, or maybe even unworthy of receiving hope. But as powerful as that verse is, many fail to also talk about the amazing truth in the following verse. See, John 3:17 tells us that God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I had a little struggle putting this episode together. Well, the reason that it was tough for me to put this one together is simply because I too started to get caught up and distracted in the onslaught of bad that is in our world around us now and is everywhere on social media. You cannot escape it. You turn on the news, you pick up the paper, you turn on your computer, you look at Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You look at everywhere you look. We are now being bombarded with just how bad the world is. And again, I admit I got distracted by it as well. I found myself focusing on the divisions and the problems that were smeared across my screen on my computer. I found myself focusing on the accusations and the fighting that was taking place between people who should not have been fighting. That ongoing fighting and the finding new ways to divide ourselves is contributing to the problem, not solving it. And so then I would offer my comments in those contexts, only to have my comments turned around and thrown back at me and be accused of being a bigot and a racist and ignorant and stupid, just some white guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, etc., etc., etc. It saddened me, and it frustrated me. It irritated me. And I wanted to fight back. I wanted to argue back. But then I started to see some other things in my social media feed. I started to see examples of good, of the best that humanity can offer, of individuals who defied the definitions and the stereotypes, and who took a stand, who stood up for what was right and did so even in the face of violent rioters, potentially aggressive protesters. And I was inspired by that as well. That softened me. It caused me to step back, check myself as to where my mind had gone, where I had allowed it to go, and then looking at these other examples, where it should have been. Rather than me starting to get focused on how bad people could be, I needed to also recognize how good they could be. And that situations like this, these troubling times, they expose both. They expose how bad some people can be, but they also expose how absolutely amazing other people can be. And I'm not ashamed to admit, I shed a tear or two watching those videos, because it wasn't just the videos themselves. It was that I had let that darkness into my heart. And watching these other videos, watching these examples of the good in humanity, stirred my heart, gave me hope again, built that up inside of me that, there's good in people too in the midst of all of this. And you know what? That's the way God sees us. All the time. See, that is why he sent his Son as a sacrifice for us. All of us. You don't get to choose whether you, or it's not a choice given to you even, you get to choose. But the choice of having Jesus as your Savior is not dependent on how good of a person you are. You are not banned from being considered for salvation because of how bad of a person you are. No. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved. God is not blind. He sees the worst that we are capable of. He also sees the good that we are capable of. And being fully aware of both, still, he sent his one and only Son, that whoever will believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Lord, you're holy. Lord, you're holy, and we lift you up and magnify your name. Lord, you're holy. Lord, you're holy, and we lift you up and magnify your name. I look around and I see all the works your hands have made, the awesomeness of you, and how your love will never fade. Oh, mere words cannot express what I feel inside. I can't describe your glory divine, but as a token of my love, this is what I'll do. I'll lift my voice and cry, Lord, you're holy. Lord, you're holy, and we lift you up and magnify your name. Lord, you're holy. Lord, you're holy, and we lift you up and magnify your name. There's not enough words that I could say to tell you how much I appreciate all the wonderful things you've done for me. Your love and kindness, your tender mercies. It's my desire to praise you and tell you how much I love you. Oh, you're worthy of all the glory, and you're worthy of all my praise. I want to praise you, Lord. Oh, Jesus, you're worthy. You're worthy of all the glory and the honor, and you're worthy of all my praise. I don't know why you would love me, why you gave your life for me, but I will lift my voice to tell the world you are wonderful, glorious, holy and righteous, victorious, conqueror, triumphant and mighty, healer, deliverer, shield and defense, strong tower and my best friend, omnipotent, omnipresent, soon coming King, Alpha, Omega, Lord of everything. Holy, holy, holy is your name. Wonderful, glorious, holy and righteous, victorious, conqueror, triumphant and mighty, healer, deliverer, shield and defense, strong tower and my best friend, omnipotent, omnipresent, soon coming King, Alpha, Omega, Lord of everything. Holy, holy, holy is your name. Holy, you are holy. Yes, holy is your name. Holy, you're so holy. Yes, holy is your name. Your name. I cannot make the trouble in our world go away. And frankly, as long as there are people, there will always be some type of trouble. It's human nature, unfortunately. But God remains the same. He continues to be our solid foundation, our salvation through it all. Thank you for joining me again. We'll see each other next week for another episode of Sundays with Paul.